This week on The Splash, we join together in support of a local organization, then tapping into a piece of history, and later a special visit from one of our leaders. The Splash is the production of Civic Center TV. We're a news magazine that covers everything from local news to feature stories, all so that we can bring you the latest from the greater West Bloomfield area. And now, let's dive into The Splash.
Thank you so much for being with us on The Splash. I'm Brooke Allen. The Greater West Bloomfield Community Coalition helps provide local programs that encourage the development of well-adjusted youth and a strong network of community involvement in raising our children. And they recently held their 10th annual fundraiser in West Bloomfield Township. We had reporter Ryan Younglove on the story.
I'm here at Planterra Conservatory today, where the Greater West Bloomfield Community Coalition is holding their 10th annual fundraiser.
This is our 10th annual fundraising gala. It is our main event to raise funds to bring programming into our schools and programs into the community on drug and alcohol prevention, mental health, anti-bullying, internet safety, anything that can help kids grow to their greatest potential. It brings us all together and shows that we're a very strong community and that we all do care about our kids. And for us, it's very important to raise the funds to continue our programming. We need these programs to help kids grow to their greatest potential. They need that extra little boost of information on drug and alcohol prevention and learning coping mechanisms so that we can be more resilient.
Guests from all over the Greater West Bloomfield attended the fundraiser, where there was food, entertainment, and of course, many prizes to raffle off.
So we have many silent auction items, first of all. We have a weekend at Boyne, we have axe throwing, we have baking baskets, lotto baskets, tons, like 40, 50 items. And on our raffles, there's gift cards and jewelry and all sorts of fun stuff. And then we have something called a grub grab, where it's a gift card wall, and you pick out the restaurant you go to and buy the gift card, and it's a donation to us. And we're very thankful to Planterra and Continental Catering for hosting and sponsoring this event for us. It's absolutely gorgeous inside here.
The Greater West Bloomfield Community Coalition had an outstanding turnout this year and hopes to for the many years to come. This has been Ryan Younglove reporting for The Splash.
To find out more, you can visit civiccentertv.com/GWB Coalition Fundraiser. Our community has a wealth of historic landmarks, both in the thick of the cities and township as well as in nature. At Orchard Lake Schools, reporter Lawrence Nyland recently had an opportunity to tap into a little bit of that rich history.
Maple syrup was in great abundance in Orchard Lake at the second annual maple sugaring event at St. Mary's. The festivities brought out some maple novices and others who are well versed in this original recipe to coat your favorite breakfast.
I brought my family out because my son is a freshman here at Orchard Lake St. Mary's, and when I heard of maple sugaring, it brought back some fond memories since I grew up in New England. I don't believe any artificial products entered our home with relation to maple syrup. It was sort of a local law, or at least it was in my house. So I grew up with real maple syrup, and my son, coincidentally, has had a hot breakfast nearly every day since he was 2 years old with only real maple syrup. So I brought them out for a little history and a pancake breakfast.
And that history of harvesting syrup from maple trees began long before Europeans settled in North America.
We first learned about this kind of process through the Native Americans, and then the European settlers, the French, the British, all learned how to do it, and then settlers who made this our wonderful state learned that same method, and then every spring, February, March, they would start to do this process of harvesting the sap from maple trees to turn into syrup or candy.
The first step in harvesting sap from a tree is simple: determining which trees are actually maple trees.
There's a couple of ways you can identify a maple tree. You look at the bark, typically, and you would look at how the tree branches off from the trunk. If it's in an opposite where branches are facing both or coming out of both sides, then that's an indication it could be a maple tree. But another great way to identify a maple tree is by looking at the leaves. Maple trees have a very distinct leaf pattern, and then you can say, okay, this is a silver maple or this is a sugar maple based on the shape of the leaf itself.
And once you've found that tree, the time of day you decide to harvest is also important.
And the method behind it is you want to have below freezing temperatures at night and above freezing temperatures in the daytime. And what that does is, at night, all of the sap goes into the root system of the tree. During the daytime, the sap moves up the tree or the trunk.
Now you're just a few steps away from creating your own delectable topping for your waffles or pancakes.
You can tap the tree, and what you're doing is creating a small little hole in the tree that you can drill in at a up angle so that when the sap comes up, it can actually flow down into your collection, whether it's a bucket or one of those traditional methods where they have a spile with a hook and you put the bucket on the spile. Raw maple syrup just has the sap, and all you're doing is boiling out the water to get that kind of that syrupy flavor, and the taste is sugar in the tree itself. So when you taste sap from a maple tree, you'll taste that kind of sugar, and then boiling it out, that's when you get that whole flavor of what we traditionally associate.
Reporting for The Splash, this is Lawrence Nyland.
For more information, feel free to stop by our website at civiccentertv.com/Orchard Lake Sugaring. Coming up, we get a special visit from a state leader and then another episode of Sidewalk Talk.
Don't go away. You're watching The Splash on Civic Center TV. And now, back to The Splash on Civic Center TV.
Welcome back to The Splash. Thank you for being with us. I'm Brooke Allen. Recently, kids at Doherty Elementary School celebrated March is Reading Month with a story from a special guest. We sent reporter Tyler Keefe back to class for all of the fun.
To even further boost our kids' love of reading, the West Bloomfield School District called in reinforcements from the highest office in the state of Michigan. In an effort to emphasize the necessity of strong reading skills in the education of our students, Governor Gretchen Whitmer visited Greater West Bloomfield to join a class of enthusiastic students at Doherty Elementary School. March is Reading Month, and classroom experiences such as the governor's visit encourage our youth to take an interest in reading that extends far beyond the confines of the classroom.
Well, March is Reading Month because we want to highlight the importance for kids and for parents alike, how critical it is that we're reading to our kids. This is where so many of the synapses get connected in brain development, and if you're not learning to read, you're really far behind. So we want to make sure we close the reading gap in Michigan.
Governor Whitmer spent the month of March visiting classrooms all across the state in an effort to reaffirm her office's prioritization of education as she partners with leaders in state and local government and on the grassroots of our future in communities like Greater West Bloomfield.
There are teachers who are incredibly dedicated, and every one of our kids has unlimited potential, but what we need is a state government that recognizes that and supports it through prioritizing it in our budget, through empowering the experts who are on the front line, and by really practicing what we preach. Everyone says they care about education, but it's time for us to really prove in Michigan this is our priority.
As much as the governor inspired students to read, the students had some inspiration of their own to pass on, introducing Governor Whitmer to one of the signatures of the West Bloomfield School District's Portrait of a Graduate, the social contract. These goals and standards aim at creating a more respectful and dedicated classroom environment, where kids are focused not only on their empowerment, but the empowerment of their classmates and teachers as well, something that caught the governor's attention and commendation.
I think it's wonderful. What a great tool to empower the children to create the expectations in the classroom instead of being told what to do. They're a part of it, and this is just a really innovative way to get everyone to buy into it.
The students of Doherty were as excited to interact with Governor Whitmer as she was ecstatic to see the results of the 4 C's in action, providing an example of just what can be accomplished when we work together to make a better classroom, and in the process, a better Michigan.
These children were particularly impressive and loving and thoughtful, and I was really, I don't remember as a child myself having this kind of an impressive presentation, and they were really great, and they're inspiring.
At Doherty Elementary School in West Bloomfield Township, I'm Tyler Kieft, reporting for The Splash.
For more on this story, you can visit civiccentertv.com/Doherty Reading. Now it's time for Sidewalk Talk, where reporter Patrick McElmurray asks the people of Greater West Bloomfield about their best vacation.
My best vacation was a last-minute trip to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. What's the best vacation you've ever had, and what made it so great?
Probably Jamaica. Yeah, just because, it was for one of my family members' weddings, so it was pretty interesting. It was pretty fun, and we were there for like a couple of weeks, so it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So it was really nice there. It's really hot and sunny. A lot of good beaches and stuff.
Florida, because I was with my friend and we had a lot of fun.
You remember what part you went?
Yeah, Fort Lauderdale.
That was my best vacation too.
Oh,
it was a good time.
Yeah.
Probably anywhere with my family.
Turks and Caicos, because it was just really nice there. And I don't know, it was just really nice and sunny.
Where's that at?
It's an island in the Caribbean.
Oh, okay, I've never been to the Caribbean.
It's really nice.
I need to go.
Yeah, you do.
Now, what's the best place you've ever visited on vacation, and what made it so great?
It would be a tie between Tennessee. We just traveled all over Tennessee, just had a great time of the mountains and views, food, everything, or Aruba, just because the weather was just amazing. It was, every day was like 78 and like perfect temperature.
That's quite a toss between Aruba and Tennessee.
Yes.
You wouldn't think Tennessee would be the same thing as Aruba.
It is. It's definitely is.
Mexico, because it's hot and you swim a lot and it's fun.
Did you swim with the dolphins?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
My mom didn't let me.
Texas, because I get to see all my cousins.
Did you guys do any fun things while you were there?
Yes.
What'd you do?
We got to swim in our outdoor pool, and every time it was so cold, and Daddy and Richie forced me to jump in it, but I was like, no.
I'm Patrick McElmurray. Join us next week for another episode of Sidewalk Talk.
For more episodes of Sidewalk Talk on Demand, visit civiccentertv.com/Sidewalk Talk. Now it's time for the Civic Center TV event update. We provide you with upcoming events around Greater West Bloomfield, and for more events coming up, you can visit civiccentertv.com/events. Let's Talk, an ESL discussion group, Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 noon at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. Anyone learning English or who wants to improve their skills is welcome during this English language discussion group. A tutor from the Oakland Literacy Council will facilitate the conversation and help all who attend become stronger with their English language skills. You can feel free to drop in for all or part of the sessions. For more information, call 248-232-2290 or visit wblib.org. Sit to Stay Fit exercise class Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 12 noon at Spirit of Grace Church in West Bloomfield. Help your mind, body, and spirit and improve your strength and balance in this fun exercise class for people of all ages. It costs $4 to attend each class, and you can learn more by calling 248-682-0770 or by visiting spiritdrivenchurch.org. Join West Bloomfield bands for their Friends and Family Show March 28th at 7:45 p.m. at Abbott Middle School. The evening will start with the Elementary Color Guard, followed by the JV and Varsity Guard, known as the Sport of the Arts. A Color Guard routine involves music, dance, costumes, choreography, and is performed with flags, rifles, and sabers. JV and Varsity groups will perform the following shows: Red Carpet Ready and I Have Seen It All. Winter Percussion will top off the evening with their show that includes costumes and props that will feature all percussion elements. 29 talented musicians tell the visual story woven with choreography and heart-pounding rhythms. The event is free to attend. For more information, you can visit wbbands.info. Toys in Space, April 1st at 11 a.m. at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. Get ready for a rocket ship ride as Zemo blast off in this action-packed show full of space-age tricks that will amaze and amuse all ages. Zemo will perform demonstrations with toys that were taken into space aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery that will make your senses tingle and your jaws drop. The event is free to attend and no registration is required. To learn more, call the library's Youth Services Office at 248-232-2250. Matter of Face, April 4th at 10 and 11 a.m. at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. This workshop will introduce children to the structure of atoms and molecules. Students will learn and observe the difference between physical and chemical changes through a hands-on approach. For more information, you can visit wblib.org. Mommy and Me Hike, April 4th at 10:30 a.m. at the Recreation Activity Center. You and your child are invited to join a West Bloomfield Parks naturalist on a nature discovery and exercise walk. The trail may be unpaved, so all-terrain strollers are recommended. A baby backpack or carrier is also suggested for infants. Depending on the weather and temperature, we may have additional indoor activities and shorter outdoor activities. This is a free program, but pre-registration is required for all participants. All ages are welcome. To register, visit wbparks.org. For this week's highlights, you can find more events online at civiccentertv.com/events and see everything going on in the greater West Bloomfield area. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll speak with West Bloomfield resident and musician Steve Ah Chee.
Don't go away. You're watching The Splash on Civic Center TV.
Civic Center TV is your home for everything greater West Bloomfield. Here you can tune into community programming such as our weekly news magazine show, The Splash, as well as coverage of local events and meetings in Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake, and West Bloomfield. You can also watch all of your local programming online anytime at civiccentertv.com. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
And now, back to The Splash on Civic Center TV.
Welcome back. We're joined by West Bloomfield resident and musician Steve Ah Chee. And Steve, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Brooke.
You're a big celebrity around town.
I don't know about that. I think I'm sitting with a bigger celebrity.
No. So tell me about yourself. It's pretty interesting.
Sure. Well, I actually grew up in Birmingham, so a few miles away, and lived there for half my life until I went to Japan for about 4 years. And then I came back, and I've been in West Bloomfield ever since, so across the street from the studios here.
Okay, so so you're a musician.
I am.
And you've traveled the world with your music, right?
I have, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your music for people who don't know.
Yeah, sure. So I play piano and sing, and I am a complete hack, so I never took lessons. I wouldn't pass a third grade music class. I still don't know how to read any kind of music, so I just kind of learned by ear. And I did that because my parents, when I was a kid in high school, they took me to a Billy Joel concert, and I saw him jumping all over the piano, and I thought it was so cool that I just started playing along to, remember those records we used to have? So I started playing along to that with, 2 fingers and a thumb, and then eventually more fingers, and I don't know, figured it out. And in the beginning, I would just play at coffee houses or for anyone that would listen. And after a while, people started paying me to do it. And then I started releasing.
That's always a nice surprise,
it's so
isn't it?
great when you can just have your hobby and then people pay you money for it,
Right.
So I recorded and released music, and just over time, it's probably been over 15 years that I've been doing that. And I'm just lucky enough to have, I think there are 200 songs or something that I have out with a bunch of albums. Many of them are like acoustic piano and singing versions of covers, so songs that people would know. And maybe about 30% of them are songs that I wrote. And just over the years, I've gotten to be in the right place, I guess, at the right time, and lucky enough to have a bunch of fans. So I'm past 20 million downloads and sales and streams across all of the platforms, the Pandoras and
Right. So
iTunes.
you do cover songs, but you also do original, and then you do custom songs.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about that, because that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, sure. So I've gotten hired a lot by people that are putting on private events. So it could be anything from a wedding to a retirement party to a corporate event where there's just hundreds of people and they're having even their year-end party or something like that. And that's been one of the fun things to do is, I'll perform, whether it's during dinner or I'll do some kind of show for people. But then we'll announce this thing where I'm performing this custom song that I wrote for them, but I had already kind of figured out what I was going to do by talking to like the executive team and the CEO. And so it just adds this element of something memorable to the event, because usually, especially corporate events, are a little dry. And they're talking, the sales this quarter and how excited they are about next year. And then out comes, Adam Sandler making fun of their CEO and having everyone clap and sing along. And that's been really cool. The last maybe 3 out of 4 times that I did it, I had the CEO of the company call me over the weekend and say, "That was so great. Can we pay you to go in the studio and record it?" So I did that, and I remember calling one of the companies one time, and I'm hearing my voice on their outgoing voicemail, so they used it there, right? So I guess they liked it.
I guess so.
Yeah, it's fun.
So out of those 3 venues, so to speak, what's your favorite?
It's really hard to say, because I get a really good amount of like creative fulfillment writing a song that some stranger says, "We'd like to, we love your song Legacy. We'd like your permission to play it at our father's funeral," or something. Or there's a song that they're going to be using in some indie film in Europe that they asked and they're paying me for. Versus, people that email me and say, "Man, I love your version of Let It Be. I mean, this is a Beatles song. I obviously didn't write it, but could you please send me the sheet music, for this song?" And then I have to.
I was going to say, can you do that?
Of course not. I have no idea. So I have to reveal to my fans that I'm a hack at that point.
Right.
Yeah. So I really, they're all, different. I love performing in front of people, and I love being able to release music that, millions of people are listening to and deriving some kind of joy out of. So that's a good thing.
So what's so interesting about you is that you're not just a musician. You also have another side to you. You have a tech side.
Right. Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting.
I would say it's more business than tech. I am not smart enough to do the stuff that I hire the people to do. So yeah, we have a technology staffing company, and we have clients all over the country that are as small as like 10-person startups, all the way to GM and Apple, which are customers of ours. And yeah, when they're looking to have some expert on some kind of big data or analytics thing, I certainly understand and can talk the talk, but I'm not one of the people that is smart enough to do the work. So, I think like most successful businesses, you hire people that are smarter than you, right? So that's what I do.
So left brain, right brain, both in action with you.
Really try and keep them both going, yeah.
Out of the 2, what's your favorite?
What side of the brain?
Yeah,
it's hard to tell. I mean, it's like you get this, do you like to read?
Oh, yeah.
So there's this part of my brain that lights up when I'm right before that moment where I'm like, what kind of loser am I that I'm spending my Friday night alone by the fire reading about, neurolinguistic programming or some weird thing. Like, that's probably not something you should announce, but there's just a part of my brain that lights up when I'm like, it's just an intellectual curiosity that isn't really about creativity. And then there's another side of my brain that lights up when I'm like, I'm going to this event next week, and they are going to love this song that I just made. Like, they are going to laugh and remember this forever, And people do.
Right.
I hear from people, 5 years later that said, "I went to your show, and you did this." And I barely remember the thing that they're talking about, but it's like it's so memorable to them.
Right, it impacted them in some way.
Cool, yeah. Cool to be
so
able to
you do
do
have
that.
an event coming up.
I do, yeah, a couple. I have a summer tour, kind of. I call it a tour, Southeast Michigan tour. Right. The park in Birmingham, the park in Plymouth, and Wixom, and those will all be on my website on steveacho.com. But the next one I have is on April 12th, and it is for FAR Therapeutic. They are just a great local organization that helps mostly children, but they have all ages, and they are the mentally and physically challenged. And they have a music and arts therapy program. So I always go and perform, sometimes with them, and do funny songs and get people to sing along at those. And I'll also be performing on June 7th at the show right here in town. The
food truck rally.
Food truck event,
The
yes.
food truck rally, yes.
Correct, yeah.
That's a very popular event.
It is,
I'm sure you'll be a big hit.
I'm happy to be driving down the street to perform at that. Yeah, it's a lot closer than some of my other shows across the country.
You can probably walk there.
I probably can.
Yeah. So if anyone wanted to hear your music or buy a CD, do you still do CDs?
I haven't bought or made a CD in so many years that I'm just digital. I'm not even here right now. I'm at home on my couch.
You're
this is a hologram. Don't try and touch me. It's going to go right through. All my music is digital, and it's really easy to find me. I don't even have to tell you a website. You can just search my name, Steve Acho, ACHO, and I can't really commit any crimes because I'm the only one in the world, apparently, with that name.
With that name.
Hard to hide,
Yes.
easy to find.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, in one sentence, tell me what music means to you.
One sentence. Artistic passion. 2 words.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you.
And we have been joined by West Bloomfield resident and musician Steve Acho. And now it's time for a new episode of Parenting on the Go, where I sat down with Kristen Walters and Aaron Lawson to discuss the role of social worker and psychologist in our schools. Hi, welcome to Parenting on the Go. I'm Brooke Allen, and joining me today is Kristen Walters, social worker in the Walled Lake Consolidated School District, and Aaron Lawson, psychologist in the Walled Lake Consolidated School District. So, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And so tell me what the difference is between a social worker and a psychologist.
Well, in the school setting, social workers are trained mental health professionals with a master's degree in social work who primarily work with kids with significant needs in the area of social skills, behavior skills, and emotional regulation struggles.
Okay, and how about psychologists?
Psychologists are uniquely trained members of school teams. We're educated in learning, mental health, and behavior. So we contribute similarly, but we can also take a closer look at learning and how the brain functions and how that affects learning.
Okay, so why do we need school psychologists and social workers? Are they so similar, or do you just work collaboratively?
We often work collaboratively, and we often work with students with special education needs. However, we also work with the general population at times. Today, there are so many students who have lifelong disabilities, who have unmet needs and struggle with just daily challenges navigating through the school system. And those are the students we're kind of there to support when they have additional challenges and needs along the way in the learning environment.
And while our roles do overlap quite a bit, psychologists participate in comprehensive evaluations when students are suspected of having a disability. Child find is an integral part of our job, since the law requires school districts to identify students with disabilities and then provide appropriate programming. So psychologists are particularly involved in the design and development of those programs for those students.
So an IEP, is that something, is
yes,
that what you're talking
yes,
about?
Yes, thank you for
Okay.
asking. An individualized education plan, which is a program for students who are identified with special needs.
Okay, and that's something you're both involved in?
It depends on the disability area, but yes, typically we are both involved in that.
Okay.
Typically, yes. Social workers are mandated for emotional impairment evaluations as well as autism evaluations. However, if a team or the school personnel identify a specific need in an area, they may bring the social worker in on a student with a learning disability if they have needs above just their learning in the social, emotional, or behavior areas.
And the psychologist, kind of the same thing then?
Yep, psychologists have certain areas that we are mandated to be part of as well. Mostly we're involved in all of the evaluations, however, unless it is sometimes a reevaluation and students don't require a whole bunch of testing or evaluation. Again, we just make our evaluations when we're revisiting concise and meaningful so that we can write a new plan for the next year.
Right, because the IEP is good for 1 year, I think, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So what about like the family aspect of this? Do you work closely with family as well?
We both usually work closely with families. I often see students more long-term on a direct basis, so individually or in groups, to work on a variety of skill deficits, like maybe they struggle with anger management or coping skills or self-esteem. So in those aspects, I'm trying to work often with families to help support those skill growth in the home setting, because it works best when we are kind of working holistically with students. Additionally, sometimes I'm a point person in the school for families of the students that I work with. So if they have a certain need or something's happening with a student that day, I may reach out to the family, or the family may reach out to me and say, my student needs a little extra support today. Can you check in with them or work on this area?
Okay, and then how about you?
Well, psychologists' role in schools differs from a clinical setting. So I don't provide ongoing therapy in the schools, but what I can do is provide crisis intervention and collaborate with other staff so that we can implement strategies that work for students, whether it's regard to learning or mental health. And then I also connect families with agencies and services outside of school, and often I'm a liaison for that. And basically I work in a consultative role a lot with administrators, teachers, social workers, and directly with students when they have significant needs.
So you're kind of on the front line and you're maybe a little bit behind the scenes.
Right.
Okay. So if a student or a parent needed you, how do they reach out?
Typically, they would contact the school to ask, the child's school to ask. At times, we often work with special ed, so they could also contact the special education department. But the quickest route would be just going through the child's school.
Okay. And then how about if there was, you mentioned crisis intervention, if someone was at that point or a student was at that point, they could find you?
Certainly, a parent can always reach out to the school and ask to have a conversation with their school psychologist or school social worker, and we can help guide them with what appropriate next steps might be.
Okay, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to talk to you and get to know the difference, because I think a lot of people out there don't really understand the difference between a social worker or a psychologist.
Right.
And students, you both play a major role with our students, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this episode of Parenting on the Go. And if you would like to look up more helpful parenting tips, you can visit the West Bloomfield Youth Assistance website at wbyouthassistance.org. For more episodes of Parenting on the Go, visit civiccentertv.com/parenting to go. And now it's time for our final segment, Person of the Week, people in the community inspiring and providing toward others. And this week's recipient is Cindy Hill, president of the Rotary Club of West Bloomfield. One of the great advocates for the youth in our community, Cindy Hill has served the greater West Bloomfield with grace, honor, and enthusiasm as the president of the Rotary Club of West Bloomfield. Working alongside a team of dedicated members of the community, both and from local government, organizations, and residents alike, Cindy has made a concerted effort to better our community through powerful efforts to engage our local kids in a love of learning and restore and fortify a confidence in themselves as learners, people, and emerging leaders of our community and greater society. The efforts of Cindy and her fellow Rotarians in the community have continued to benefit kids both in Greater West Bloomfield and in places all over the world. Cindy is an active advocate of the power of kindness, dedication, and empowerment. And when you speak to Cindy Hill, you quickly learn how close to her heart she holds helping other people, bringing the Rotary motto of service above self to life each and every day, which is why she is our Person of the Week. If you know someone who's making a positive difference, let us know. Send an email to thesplash@civiccentertv.com. We want to congratulate and acknowledge those making a difference in our community. And we appreciate your suggestions. Well, that's it for this week's show. You can watch new episodes Mondays at 5:30 p.m. at Civic Center TV on Comcast 15, AT&T 99, and online in HD at civiccentertv.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Civic Center TV. And for more Metro Detroit news, you can listen to me and Greg Bowman from 2 to 7 p.m. on WWJ Newsradio 950. So for all our friends in Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake, Kego Harbor, and West Bloomfield, I'm Brooke Allen. Thank you for watching The Splash.